It's time once again for the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media. Thanks for joining us. As you see, we're back in the studio, Heidi, finally. Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator, with a little different setup to keep a social distance here.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We have the meeting from June 15th to talk about. It was about an hour and 45 minutes long, one longer topic, and also a lot of community input through email, so we'll tell you about that. Let's begin with the consent agenda, and Heidi, there were a few things pulled from the agenda. One was the Botno Ridge Apartments, and this is ongoing development in phases, and I understand the council just wanted to pull this aside to make it aware to residents that this is an important project for the city.
Yeah, so this will be the third building of Botno Ridge, which is the third phase of this project by Duffy Development, and so they're going to be going through the MHFA funding process this summer, and one of the qualifications for the funding is what the city's participation in the project is. And so we previously had approved about $107,000 in fee waivers. In order to meet the MHFA funding requirements, we needed to increase that to about $140,000, and so that resolution that was on the agenda made that adjustment to that fee waiver. And so I think Councilmember Barnett wanted to pull this just to kind of highlight that this is a great affordable housing project, workforce housing project that is available to a lot of families that live in Maple Grove, and so this third phase of it will hopefully be successful in getting its MHFA funding and come through and be built over the next couple years. So look for that third phase of that building over at Botno Ridge.
Okay, and one other pulled from the consent was an agreement with the school district on the School Resource Officer is a correct title. Tell us a little bit about this discussion, and again, this brought some emails in from the public as well. Yeah,
so there's been just a lot of attention on the issue of school resource officers following George Floyd, and so, you know, and with the action in Minneapolis, and so a lot of questions about the role of school resource officers in the schools. And so the district has been looking at the issue. They had taken action on the contract in late May. The contract cycles here at the beginning of July, so we needed to take action on it as a council. We're really providing that service to the school district. We do that as well as Brooklyn Park Police Department does that. And so there's, you know, there's kind of folks on either side of the issue in terms of is it, you know, is it the appropriate role for law enforcement in the schools, or, you know, strong support for officers in the schools. So I think, you know, more to come on this issue. I think the district, you know, we heard from the district they wanted to continue to have this agreement in place, and so we moved forward with that. And they'll continue to have discussion and talk through about the approach of the work of officers in the schools and how it's really about trying to form relationships with the kids and, you know, kind of get ahead of issues in the school buildings and that kind of a thing. So more to come on this one, but for now, this one's moving forward for the next upcoming school district or school season, and then that covers through 2023, the contract does.
Next item on the agenda from the 15th was the open forum, and as we talked just before the taping here, again, community engagement and involvement seems to be up. Tell us about this as the place for that to happen within council meetings on a regular basis.
Yeah, so in light of the COVID situation, we put up a public comment form on our website so that folks that didn't feel comfortable coming to the chambers are open for meetings. People can come in, and as you've seen, now we have 3 members of the council that are coming to the chambers for the meetings. We'll kind of keep that hybrid format going for a while here, I think, but we're receiving a lot of input from the public, a lot of it around the issues of you know, police reform, you know, race and equity issues, those kinds of things. Some concerns raised about our election judges and working in the polls. We've been aware of those concerns, and, you know, will voters be required to wear masks, those kinds of things, and how are we going to provide for the safety of our election judges. So a lot of input being received via email. We're trying to, you know, get some responses out to that. I just want to call to attention for the public. The mayor does have a statement on the front page of the website in response to George Floyd, and then also our police chief on the police department page has a statement out there. So I think, you know, we're just trying to follow up on those emails and get that communication out.
Very good. I know it's busy right now. COVID-19 response, again, ongoing responses and updates at the city council meetings from Chief Bush. Tell us about his latest update and some of the other notes related to city facilities and city services.
Yeah, so the government center is back open for in-person service as well as the police department lobby. When you come into the government center side, it'll look a little bit different. We've installed plexiglass at all of our service counters, reception desk. Passport services are back open. We do want you to make an appointment for those services because we're trying to space those appointments so that we provide for distancing for folks there. Been working with the business community on those expanded patios, and now they're available to open, 50% inside, and also churches and doing outdoor services. So we've been working with churches on those issues. So lots of activity as we continue to follow as the governor turns the dial and what that means to not only our services here at the city of Maple Grove, but also our business community.
Very good. Next item, a very nice item, a recognition of a staff person that had been with the city for a long time in the HR department.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Joyce Edmeyer is retiring from the city as of Friday, and she's been with the city. It was 20 years, actually on Monday,
Fantastic.
June 15th, that she celebrated her 20-year anniversary. So her title was HR specialist, and she handled a lot of the recruitment for the city. So a lot of the staff that is hired by the city, of course, got to know Joyce through that process. So she was well known to many of the city staff and such a valuable employee to the city. So we're going to miss Joyce, and we wish her all the best in her retirement. And so this was, because we can't gather for cake and coffee like we normally do to acknowledge employees' service, this is kind of our way of being able to recognize that and provide them a send-off as they move on.
Very nice. Thanks to Joyce. Couple vacations that were talked about at the meeting, some public hearings, again, some small pieces of property. Give us the look at the two sites that were discussed.
Yeah, so we had a couple vacation public hearings on easement vacations, one down at Elm Road, so that project continues to move forward. A lot of activity in and around that road project down there, as well as the Palisades at Nottingham. So that's a development that was approved a couple years ago and has kind of stalled a bit, but now they're kind of taking care of some of those easement vacations and likely to see some development activity moving forward there as well.
All right, let's move to community development from the meeting on the 15th of June, and this was the long topic. Again, took about 45 minutes of discussion. Something, Heidi, as I understand and recall, was tabled the last time, and it looks like it had the same fate this time. Give us a little recap of what has happened up to this point and some of the discussion from the 15th.
Yeah, so since our last meeting, I think it was the middle of May, and then we tabled it to June 15th because we knew we needed a little bit more time, probably a month, to kind of work on this. We did make significant progress with Hennepin County on the issue of kind of some traffic control at that intersection of Fernbrook and Territorial there, just north of 81. The county did provide us a letter indicating that they would be agreeable to a temporary signal at that location once it met warrants. We had intended to install turn lane improvements there, but we're also the notion of putting in a mini roundabout there is being explored, and the county is open to it, but I think the council wanted to get a little bit more firm of a response from the county on that issue, and I agree with that. I think we need to get some commitment that they're going to allow us to move forward with that. It certainly changes if we're going to do that mini roundabout. We wouldn't construct those turn lane improvements like we would do for a signal, so it's kind of becomes throwaway to go do that and then come back a year later and put that roundabout in. So our intent would be to build that roundabout sooner rather than later, in the next year or so, get that in, and so that would help with those turning movements at that intersection. This is kind of a new model that the county's looking at. They just did one out at 101 and Territorial Road, kind of at the corner of Rogers and Dayton, and in western, kind of at the edge of Maple Grove up there. If you've been out that way and driven that one, it's a new roundabout there. I think it's a great solution for this location. So the direction was to kind of continue to work with Hennepin County over the next month. Our next meeting isn't now till July 20th, so we have a bit of time. And so this project had till July 28th under its 120-day rule. So we have that time to get that done. So we're hoping to be able to bring back a more solid agreement with Hennepin County when we come back on July 20th.
Is this a similar discussion that happens in other developments where What do you do with traffic before the traffic actually appears in some of those situations? Because it sounds like that's the conversation here as well. Traffic doesn't warrant it now, but it will certainly in the future.
Yeah.
I suspect that's happened before in the city many times.
Yeah, multiple times. Every community deals with this. It's the chicken and the egg, you
Yeah.
know, is do you wait for the problem to develop to solve it, or do you, and so from a, a traffic warrants perspective, there's a threshold at which traffic becomes, and you do traffic studies and traffic becomes a certain level, then a signal or some other sort of traffic control is warranted.
Right.
And I think the county's always reluctant to get out ahead of those things, and their purpose is for throughput on the county road system, and on and certainly we have some of those goals at the city as well. We always try to make sure we're adhering to engineering standards when we're looking at those issues. So, but I think this is one that it just doesn't make sense for us to be building a portion of, turn lane project and then come back and have it not fit with what the eventual, if the solution is a roundabout, our request is let us do that now and get that solution in there. And we know the traffic's going to come. So we'll see what happens here in the next couple weeks,
Right.
but we'll see what we can get to on July 20th.
All right, more information to come after that next council meeting. Other items under community development, a new daycare looking to come to town. Give us those details.
Yeah, so this is new Creations Daycare. It's out at 101 and Bass Lake Road. It's on the northwest corner, so just south of Lord of Life, and then just to the east of the New Havenwood Senior Housing Development there, so kind of tucked into that corner. That site was always, in the concept, was designated for a daycare type facility. So this one gained its concept stage and development stage plan approval on Monday night, and probably see that one going forward yet this summer.
Next one related to the village at Arbor Lakes. Growth continues there. Tell us about the next building that is being discussed.
So this would be kind of straight north of Wahlburgers there, just south of that entrance road that kind of traverses the whole commercial site. Two tenant small commercial building. One, of course, will be coffee. We need more coffee. And then
Right.
some other tenant in the building unknown to us at this time. But this is the continued build out of the village at Arbor Lakes.
Final item under community development is a tree preservation overlay district. Talk about what this is. It sounds rather complicated, and it sounded like the council felt it was rather complicated and wanted a little more time.
Yeah, we had come back on this issue, or we had first started out talking about the shoreland ordinance and then the tree preservation. We had them paired, and then there was a little bit more urgency to the shoreland issue, so we peeled that away and got that done and said, well, we'll deal with this later. And so finally have kind of gotten around to getting that back on the agenda. And I think the council felt like, boy, it's been a long time since we talked about this. Can we just maybe take a step back and do a work session or something and kind of talk through what the changes that are being proposed. So we'll get this back on an agenda. I don't have an exact schedule for that at this time, but look to see that, July, August timeframe.
Let's go to community development update. A few things that are happening in town and a lot happening in the business community. Tell us a little bit about the reopenings that you have seen, but also some closings that you've seen.
Yeah, so we know, and this has been well publicized in the media, JCPenney isn't coming back. I think they're going to be having some, closeout sales here in the coming weeks, and then Pier 1 also won't be coming back. For the restaurant scene, Patrick's over at the Shops at Arbor Lakes, they're closing, and then Cafe Donuts up on County Road 30, that one's closing as well. So, when we started into this with COVID and all the closures, as we were trying to do some projections about what the impacts might be, we were concerned, maybe 25% of our restaurants may not come back, and what that might mean to us. And so we regret seeing the businesses close, but I think, it seems like everybody's kind of coming back and finding a way. And so, and we know, we did our small business emergency loan program here a couple weeks ago upon the reopening. And so hopefully that's helped a few folks prop themselves up as they're reopening. So, but we are, sad to see some of these businesses not recover from these closures.
Couple other items that were discussed at this point we talked about earlier related to churches and outdoor services, and also ways that meetings will be held in the city of Maple Grove. Let's move ahead to Public Works and Engineering. How about I-94? How are we doing out there?
Yeah, well, I think it's going pretty well, and it's continuing to move along. And certainly this reduced traffic on the roads is really helping with how things are moving along. But until July 26th now, the eastbound ramps to and from 94 from Maple Grove Parkway are going to be closed. So that's kind of a big impact up there. So you'll want to think about that as you're traveling around town. And it's kind of challenging right now. You've got to be in the one lane to get to the exits and whatnot. So if you are a Maple Grove resident and you're looking to go to the north end or the south end, I'd encourage you to kind of stay off to the back streets and use the local streets. But they'll be, that'll be changing. They're going to move to Weaver next, and then when they switch the traffic over, they'll do the westbound lanes and that kind of a thing. So we're going to have these periodic ramp closures here probably for the next 12 to 18 months.
Sounds like the weather has cooperated to help that project along, and also your street reconstruction. Just give us an update there. Everything seems to be going along well. Yeah,
I think it is going along well, and we haven't had a tremendous amount of rain this season. We've had some nice, hot weather, which always helps a little bit for drying things out. So yeah, those projects continue to move along as well.
And your update at the council meeting on the 15th, you talked about the special session, and it continues to evolve as we're now taping this on the Wednesday. What have you heard? What is the latest?
Well, and certainly after the in-custody death of George Floyd, the focus shifted to police reform, and there are many things that are being discussed down there that have some that are valid and that we want to see happen. I think one of the big issues for the city of Maple Grove is the issue of arbitration. When we have disciplinary issues with an officer, those issues then end up in an arbitration situation, and it's binding arbitration, and oftentimes arbitrators will return officers to work, and it really kind of ties our hands in terms of dealing with disciplinary issues on really it's more on areas of what it would be gross misconduct and dealing with use of force issues. And so there's a number of things that are being discussed by the legislature, but from a city perspective, that's one thing that we think could really help put some accountability back at the cities to be able to deal with those disciplinary issues, and maybe remove officers when they shouldn't be on the street anymore. And there's been a number of cases throughout the years where officers have been returned to work, and so that's something that we're working hard on, and then just really monitoring what's going on at the legislature and what those changes would mean to us.
Two other items that you're looking at, the CARES Act and also the bonding. Give us a little glimpse at those.
Yeah, so there's been agreements and non-agreement off and on about the CARES funding distribution, and I think it'll end up kind of getting tied up in the whole package. So we're continuing to watch that. And then, I think there's still the notion of a bonding bill. Even, before, everything happened in Minneapolis, there was a focus on a bonding bill as stimulus to respond to COVID.
Right.
And so now I think the bonding bill has a special, focus on certainly Minneapolis, St. Paul, but there's also, the other projects that were out there, and we're still hoping on, the 610 expansion as well as the North Metro Range expansion. And that project, really has an important piece today in that much of that expansion, or a good portion of that expansion, is designated to scenario-based training that really focuses on that critical incident response and de-escalation, and providing officers that real-time training environment. And so we think it's an important project to help advance those issues, and so we're hoping that a bonding bill will get done.
All right, we'll keep our eye on the session for you, and that is it for the meeting from the 15th. Again, the next meeting is coming up on the 20th. We'll give you those details in a second. Let's hop to other items happening in the city, Heidi, and the first one relates to why the meeting is on the 20th is because of the holiday coming up.
Yeah, so the city office will be closed Friday, July 3rd, because the holiday falls on Saturday the 4th, and then we will not be having our July 6th council meeting, so our next council meeting will be Monday, July 20th.
Residents looking for some fun around town and way to maybe get your photos noticed in the city is the photo contest. Tell us about how that works and what the deadline is.
Yeah, so the contest is open. It's all available online, quick and easy. You can submit your photos online. Entries are accepted through July 14th, and then as I've noted before, we use all these photos in our various publications, whether it be social media, website, newsletters, those kinds of things. So you have the opportunity to see your work in our publications.
Very fun. A lot of people do that. Let's talk firefighter recruitment, a day to remember here. What is the latest on firefighters?
So our application process is open through July 12th. We're accepting applications for paid on-call firefighters. And just as a reminder, we're really recruiting people who want to serve their community. We provide all the training and education that you need to get into that role. We do have a couple meetings coming up, and they are holding these meetings in person.
Okay.
But they've been able to open up the fire bays and pull the trucks out and provide for a lot of spacing, and masks are being worn, that kind of a thing. So
good.
Wednesday, June 24th, there's a meeting at Fire Station 5, and then Thursday, July 2, there's a meeting at Fire Station 2, and those meetings are held at 7 p.m. and if you're interested in applying, you could come and bring members of your family to hear what the fire staff has to say there about being a firefighter.
Good. And a lot of information, again, on the city's website about those dates and what that all involves. I know you've received a lot of questions about park facilities in the city, so let's give people a little bit of update. What do we know now? What are some of dates attached to some of the fun places in town?
Yeah, so June 20th, the Weaver Lake Beach is going to be opening. June 27th, the community center indoor and outdoor pools, but right now we're limiting it to members only. So if you have a community center membership, that applies. And then as well, that applies to the gymnasium. We'll be opening that to members only. And then June 29th, the meeting rooms at the community center, and we'll be providing guidance around spacing, those kinds of things, to make sure it's a safe environment. Other things that are currently open: the ice arena. We have a lot of hockey camps going back on. Fernbrook Fields, parks, pavilions, park rentals, playfields, playgrounds. So we're kind of getting back to business here. A couple things hanging in the balance: splash pad. We're still looking at that and how we can safely provide some spacing there. So you'll maybe hear something about that in the coming weeks.
And one of the other fun spots in town is going to be busy tonight as we're recording this on Wednesday the 17th. That's Town Green, so we have concerts back.
Yeah, so under the governor's order, we can accommodate 250 in an outdoor setting. So we're bringing back the concerts at Town Green as we're taping this, as you mentioned, for tonight, Wednesday, June 17th. So pay attention to the website or social media for the future dates and the future acts that'll be performing there. You will be greeted upon arrival with an usher, and they're going to kind of be taking count and kind of spacing people out, that kind of a thing. Bathrooms will be open, but concessions won't be open. And so we're just encouraging people to kind of bring their own food or beverage. And then, again, just keep your eye on the social media to see what the future events will look like.
All right, one way to have fun in the city is through Town Green. Another way, how about this for Father's Day, a drive-in movie? How does this happen?
Yeah, so on Sunday, June 21, families can enjoy a screening of the movie Big Hero 6. The drive-in movie will take place in the grassy area in front of Maple Grove Lifetime there, so we'll utilize that parking lot of Lifetime. Parking opens at 7 p.m. The movie begins at dusk. Admission is $20 per car, and registration is open online through the city website.
Very fun. All right. Get out and enjoy that if you can. Final note we want to touch on is the farmers market continues to roll on. Tell us what we can find there now.
Well, strawberries are in season, so that's kind of a big popular item right now, and I've seen a lot of asparagus and rhubarb and those kinds of things out there. So we are open every Thursday from 3 to 7 right now, and they've got all the spacing there for the vendors and kind of the one-directional walking, additional sanitation on site. I think it seems to be going really well, and I think the public really appreciates this option, and I know the vendors are very appreciative of the business. So we're really encouraging people to come out and check out the farmers market under these new conditions.
Yes, all right, and that'll be on the city's website as well, more information about that. Heidi, thanks so much for joining us today and giving us the update.
You're welcome.
Well, let's remind you once again about that next council meeting date, and as you see, it's a ways off. It's Monday, July 20th will be the next meeting, 7:30 at the Government Center. Phone number at the bottom of the screen and the website there in the middle. A lot going on and a lot changing on a pretty regular basis, so make sure you visit the website to find out more. Viewer response line 533-1710 if you have questions or comments for the program. For Heidi Nelson, I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks again for joining us.